Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Satti and joining me is my wonderful co-host who happens to be Ali Munir. Assalamu alaikum Ali, and how are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam, Hajra, and first of all, thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. And I'm doing very well today. How are you this morning?
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. I think we have formally transitioned into the winters.
Yes,
it's very
formally.
cold, especially early in the morning, because you can find the dewdrops, especially on your cars or on your lawn, and it's a beautiful feeling to have it. But I think also, especially in the late on the wee hours of the night, we can also witness the smog in Islamabad, which is a very pressing concern, and especially in Lahore, because you can
That's very true, because I happened to be in Lahore a few days back, and smog was a huge challenge, and it is still a huge challenge for the people who are living over there.
And keeping in view the smog condition, the administration in Lahore has also put in the smart lockdowns in order to curb the menace, but I don't think so that smog is that are bearing the results or yielding the results, because it's a transnational phenomena and we need a transnational fight to curb the smog, because from our neighboring countries, especially from the India, we see that there's a lot of subtle crop burning which is affecting the atmosphere of the Lahore, and this is how we need a collective fight against the climate change by the humanity and especially all the people of this earth, because we are inhabiting the mother nature, and if mother nature is not well, we are not well. We are feeling the effects of the degradation of the environment, which we are responsible in the first place.
Well, this climate change thing and the whole catastrophe that the whole world is facing, and especially if I talk about Pakistan being less than 1% contributor of the carbon emissions, we were talking that, this climate change is a ticking bomb, but I believe it is not a ticking bomb now. It is a bomb that is exploding in form of smog, in form of natural disasters. So I think, as you have said, Hajra, that it is a collective effort and we need to curb it together.
Yes, and now moving on to our top stories, which is, of course, cricket is dominating the headlines, because yesterday it was the World Cup, and cricket fever is obviously gripping the Pakistan, has always gripped Pakistan, South Asia, because people are crazy about it. So Australia beat India by 6 wickets and won the World Cup, of course. And Ali, did you witness the match yesterday? Because men are more invested in the sports than the women, but obviously in their home ground, India lost the match and Australia won.
Well, unfortunately, I was not able to view the whole match, but yes, the second innings, I definitely saw the second innings and it was so exciting. I mean, definitely, it was a very thrilling match, rather nail-biting match, I must say.
Right. So I think we were witnessing that.
So are you a cricket lover, Hajra?
Not exactly. I'm not very well versed or well invested into the sports, but obviously, whenever there is a match of India and Pakistan, that has my hand.
Exactly. I was about to say this thing that, I myself, I'm not a die-hard fan of cricket.
Oh, really?
But yeah. But whenever there is a match between Pakistan and India, when it is a talk about India, definitely it gets very interesting.
That's very true, because there are lots of emotions that are invested in that match, and it's not just a match, it's more than that. And because
that's very true, and I believe that Australians, they gave a magnificent performance in this World Cup match.
True. But there were lots of allegations and lots of commentaries that are being done on the match, and they were talking about that how these pitches, because it was in the India, it was their home ground, and the pitches was designed in a way that benefited the India the most. But obviously, it's a match and it is designed in a way that one team will win and another team will lose, and the best team won the match. And congratulations to Team Australia, to Kangaroos, because they won the match. And obviously now we talk about obviously we will talk about the sports, and we will talk about the match. And if you want to have listen to very comprehensive cricket commentary, please tune into PTV Sports, because Shahzad Khan, our lead anchor, he was doing the commentary there, and it is a moment of pride for us. But now let's come back to our main topic, because I think we have discussed about cricket. So today happens to be 20th of November, and this is the day, according to United Nations, it is the World's Children Day. And why is there a need to celebrate this day, to observe this day? And the theme of this day is for every child, every right.
Yes, and this day was introduced in 1948 as the Flower Day. And exactly this day in particular commemorates the rights for the children. It is to support the rights of children and to support and empower the underprivileged children. And I believe that Pakistan too has a lot of children who are out of school, Hajra.
That's very true, and according to the UNICEF website, it is the day for the children and by the children, and this day is observed to talk about the childhood abuse that they go through and the violence that they go through, and more about their children's right to play, their right to education, their right to healthcare, and the right to have their voice, because I think lots of times, especially you're a father and you can understand that the parents think that the children are the part of their existence, but they have a separate existence of their own, and I think they should be given their voice, and then we should listen to their voices.
I believe that children definitely they are part of our own existence, but the children, they shouldn't be dominated, they shouldn't be subjugated.
And their identity should not be subsumed by the grander thinking of the parents. And obviously, parents need to guide them because they want their kids or children to be successful. But in this entire process of the scheme of the things, the children's identity should not be crushed, and that is very much important.
And I must say that parents must give due attention to the children's mental well-being and their emotional well-being as well.
And obviously, we are going to talk more about it. And without any further ado, we are glad that we have two wonderful young kids in our studio who has graced us with their presence. We are very glad that we have been joined by Aisha Maqsood Malik. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Happy Children's Day.
Thank you so much.
Right. And joining Aisha is her elder sister. She happens to be Amna Maqsood Malik. Assalamu alaikum, Amna, and happy Children's Day.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So let's start with the Aisha. So Aisha, tell us about your hobbies. Since we are celebrating children's, we are celebrating that you need to have your own voice. So this is the platform, this is the channel where we project the young voices out there. What are your hobbies out there?
Every kid has their own hobbies. Mine is that I love to read. I'm a literature person. So
what do you read? That's very fascinating.
I like to discover new topics, maybe find articles, essays, or even books about them with various authors, maybe Pakistani authors, or generally authors in general. And it's really fascinating to read every book because you find new topics in every book. It's not like any other. I feel like books have a power to convey a lot of messages to us more than the visual media that we have nowadays, because you really see a lot of emotions that the author really displays in the book, and it's for young minds of, like us to learn more about different topics and get our opinion, get our voice out. So
who is your favorite author? Which sort of genre do you read most?
I like to read self-help books a lot, and psychological
thrillers.
That's very interesting.
Maybe. Yeah.
And my favorite book lately is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg.
Wonderful.
So
that's great. So coming to you, Amna, since Aisha is I think an avid book reader, which I get from her conversations, you also invested in reading.
Yeah, I am. I'm the one who actually introduced her to reading. She's my younger sister. But for me, Model United Nations is something that I am more invested in as an extracurricular in school as well, and at home as well. I try to attend as many events in Islamabad, and recently I've also been to an event in LUMS, Lahore. And basically I am more into public speaking, but then I do read books here and there to keep up with topics, everyday topics, and contemporary issues. So yeah.
Right. So what's your favorite book?
My favorite book has to be it's a classic. It's also a self-help.
Wonderful. So you are into classics.
Yes, it is. I am into classic. I am into classics. I'm mostly into Jane Austen.
Wow.
Yeah, I like the Victorian era and reading about old England because it tells a lot about our history, and there are a lot of Indian and subcontinental references in classics, so that's really interesting to read.
Right, yeah, I mean that's more of a colonial history, and that's wonderful that you are invested into the classics, because I never had a knack for the classics, and I would read it whenever the university or whenever our teacher has ordered us to read it. But now coming back to Aisha, So Aisha, since it's Children's Day, and how do you want to observe this day, and especially when we talk about the right to play and the right to education, and these are both of the rights sometimes our parents feel are very conflicting in the nature, right? So parents says कि बेटा पढ़ लो तो कुछ बन लो, right? But in doing so, sometimes what happens is that your right to play is subsumed, and when you are playing, when you're out in the field, when you're out in the open, you learn a lot of new things, right? Apart from the studying, apart from that, socializing, interacting with kids, whatnot. So how would you like to celebrate this day?
First of all, your talk about prioritizing studying over playing. I feel like we should keep a good balance between them, because at the end of the day, a child is young. We have innovative minds. We like to go outside in the field and kind of learn things in an innovative way. So playing is a huge part of our lives and as who we are when we are young, because that's what shapes us when we grow up. And I would really like to say that education and maybe having our playtime, you could say, that's also a learning, form of learning. So that should be balanced, and you should really look into the child's strengths, like as if he is maybe good in sports. Make something interesting in learning which he finds similar in sports. So that is something that we need to connect our minds to. And yeah, right now Pakistan is going through a lot of different stages, so there are different things that we need to focus on for kids.
And that's a very mature thinking coming from a young kid, and I'm really glad that she's talking like that. And I'm generally very glad that kids nowadays, they're very focused and they know what they want, and especially because of the social media, there's this general awareness that has been created. I think my generation was not that.
Were you aware, Hajra?
No,
I
not
mean,
at all.
Did you have this much clarity? Because
No,
I'm
not
getting
at
very
all.
intrigued and surprised, and it's a good surprise, I must say.
Pleasant surprise,
I mean,
yes.
even when I was of her age, I didn't have this much clarity. So I think social media is a very significant contributor. But other than social media, I believe that parenting and the schooling has to play a very important role in this upbringing.
And there's a lot of focus nowadays, Ali, especially on the schooling, on the counseling part, and the career counseling, and where they want to go, and there's special sessions that are arranged. And I'm really glad this is happening, because when I was studying, that was not the case.
When I was getting my children enrolled in school, so this was one thing that I talked to their principal that, you know, I don't want grades at this stage. You know, when you're enrolling your kid in a play group or in the kindergarten class. So for me, what is really important is their grooming, is their self-confidence, and it is their emotional health.
Yes, and Amna, now coming back to you. So how do you keep a balance between studying and then public speaking, and what fascinates you more, especially as a topics that you like to contemplate and ruminate when it comes to public speaking?
Well, when we talk about the balance, it is my choice of extracurricular, so it is fun for me. And when I am at these events, it's not just only speeches. They do keep a huge balance of it. We have a carnival or a festival featuring different nations and talking about such topics. So that's how I came to know about such days and stuff. And also, when we talk about this day in particular, I integrated into public speaking when I am usually invested in different committees in Model United Nations.
Right.
And the committee that I was recently enrolled in, it was UNHRC. So basically, it's like a stimulation, and we talk about these topics. So that's how we bring it into our extracurricular.
Right. So I really want to ask you that, since you're very invested in these extracurricular activities, which is very healthy indeed.
True.
So how supportive are your parents with your extracurricular activities and with you in the public speaking?
Well, it is a challenge to convince them sometimes when, you know, studying gets a bit more hectic. Usually in the midterm or exam season.
Because as Hajra said that beta pad lo, kuch ban jao, then you can do.
But you know, I am doing A-levels. I am doing A-levels, so it's a part. Extracurriculars are a huge part of your profile when you apply for universities.
And also the internships, I remember, because when I was in my A-levels myself, so, you know, my teachers used to say that, you know, participate in these extracurricular activities and do internships. So I really want to ask you that what motivated you for the public speaking?
Well, mostly my dad. I did not want to public speak as a young child. I would be very nervous, and the trick that he told me and my mom told me is to just look at the back, not even at the crowd. So that's what got me started.
Right.
And then once I started telling my thoughts out to the crowd, it became enjoyable, and then I went on to do more
Right.
events.
So can you share your first public speaking experience? How was it? And,
I don't remember it as clearly because I was in kindergarten, and that's,
Oh, that's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so I was in
So
kindergarten.
you had this instinct since you were a kid.
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, Aisha, we would come back to you because you were giving a very meaningful smile when Amna was speaking, and then she was telling about, you know, how your parents
Yeah.
are they supportive or not. I think there is a back end story behind that. We would like to listen to that story. But Amna, obviously, this Children's Day is celebrated in order that children has a right to the voice. So, in your academic, life, have you ever felt that your voice was being suppressed, or do you felt that your voice is being respected?
So far, I haven't had like a really big instance which I'm discriminated or so, but I have to say this thing's most like my parents are really supportive of me, and we're encouraged to raise our voice. But mostly in school environments, sometimes there are issues that don't get a lot of importance, such as take bullying for example. It has such a big impact to the child's brain, and the way we grow up is because of the experiences we have in school. School is a big part, and sometimes we just don't get that much importance. Sometimes even girls in Pakistan, we don't get as much importance as we are taught that, okay, so once you're going to go in school and they're going to go after that, other things come. But in school, mostly it's that we should have extracurriculars, again, is an important thing. And we should be able to have opinions on certain topics. We should be able to give in the voice and encouraged to speak on different topics, and even complicated topics like maybe education, world health, and a lot of different things that impact us daily lives.
Right, right. So Amna, coming back to you, and obviously Aisha raised a very important point, and she was alluding to the fact that bullying is an important issue which children have to deal with in the school. So did you ever felt being bullied, or did you ever experience this form of the discrimination, I would say, with other kids? And if you have a very particular opinion about it, would you like to raise it, considering the fact that you are a public speaker?
Well, I feel like every child at some point they face this issue, but it's the way you deal with it. I did face it as a young girl in kindergarten, the same. But then when I started public speaking, it gave me a sort of power. It was my strength. So that was my way to cope with that. And once you don't listen to these tiny voices, they become insignificant. So that is the way to do it.
Right. So, it gave you the strength.
Yes.
What was the point that gave you strength, and how did it empowered you?
Because for once, I wasn't seen as I wasn't seen with my insecurities, because when someone bullies you, they're basically highlighting this stuff. When you don't feel this anymore in yourself and you're going on the stage and raising out your voice, then the crowd appreciates you for what you're saying actually and who you are. So that played a huge part.
Right.
Right. So, Aisha, coming back to you, what are the challenges that you have faced in your school life, or probably with your peers maybe?
Sometimes, which is, I feel like, a really toxic thing to say to people is talking about their physical appearance, and as well as I was a healthy kid when I was small, maybe a bit fat and chubby, so people used to say that to me a lot. And another thing I got was whenever I used to talk in English especially, they used to criticize me and say that, well, you don't give that importance to Urdu as much you give to English. Bro, I'm good in both languages, give me that credit. But yeah, a lot of children tend to criticize you in certain ways, as well as sometimes teachers also don't completely look at the child's strength, at what they're going at. It sometimes hurts their pride if they're better than them.
Okay, I really want to ask you this thing about the support we get from the teachers.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, Hajra, but personally, there were some teachers who were very supportive, but there are teachers who are less supportive.
Yes.
And
they want us to follow their method, their pedagogical methods.
And,
that was really
and unfortunately, there are some teachers, very, very unfortunately, that become part of the bullying as well. So what's your take on that?
It's generally mainly about your mindset. Matlab ke if the teacher has a certain mindset or a certain you could say a mind block to themselves, they tend to only think in that specific area. They have to go further into the child's mind and see what they're really thinking about. Because at the end of the day, they're teaching the children who are then going to be adults, and they are going to be the future.
That's true.
So sometimes I feel like the teacher should be maybe get some help, or some sort of training to understand kids' mind, because we are all different. We have our own strengths, and not just criticize that you're only good at that, stay at that. Not just that. You need to see what they're good at and get that into the teaching they are teaching us.
Right. So Amna, now coming back to you, and one last question before we wrap up this segment. Since we observe this day, and one of the philosophy behind observing this day is that children of today, they are charged with protecting the weak and vulnerable of the tomorrow, right? Yes. So what are your future aspirations, future goals in your life that you want to achieve?
Well, I want to carry on this hobby, what started as a hobby, public speaking, and actually raise voices for children, especially children in Gaza, children in Kashmir, all these places. These are children who can't speak for themselves, and they're actually yearning to do so. And as I've taken law and business subjects, I would like to go on and start an initiative for children, and especially concerning with these rights that Aisha talked about. So, right to health, right to, family life, right to, mental health, their mental health taken care of. So, all these things I would like to highlight in the future.
Honestly speaking, I'm so glad to hear all these things from you, that you have this clarity, you're aware about the mental health, because as I've said repeatedly that I was not aware about all these things when I was of your age. So now coming towards a lighter side, coming towards your home. Who do you like the most, your mom or your dad?
Well, that's a question adults love to ask. But I would say I love them both in different ways. They've contributed to my personality in different ways. So
okay, so let's rephrase this question. So Aisha, first you have to answer, and then we'll come back to Amna, right? So if there is a very huge rock and it is falling down, and you have to save one of your parents, which would that parent be?
Wow, you placed me in a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. The same thing as Amna. They're both really dear to us, and they have helped us grow in different ways.
No, answer the question. Do not just veer here and there.
That was a political response.
Yeah.
There are mixed views.
You can also let them die, both of them. God forbid. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Tie both of them.
Just pick one.
Okay, my dad, maybe.
Okay, mom is not going to be happy when she listens to it. Okay, go. Now you.
Mom.
Your mom?
Yeah, my mom.
Okay, I see. So they have saved both of your parents. So congratulations. And I think the girls have very successfully and very carefully passed this test. So Aisha, so coming back to you, since you're very prolific with your words, and I can feel that you read a lot, and that reflects in your what do you say, the self-expression, because especially I'm a teacher, and I do feel that there is this dearth of book reading culture amongst the kids, and they have now reverted to the mobile phones and to the gadgets, and obviously you don't find the information as enticing as in the books or in the hard copy on the pages, right? So do you feel that this is the problem which is afflicting your generation?
It is definitely a problem, because as children are more attractive towards visuality more than text, because this also has to do maybe because we as children and as time nowadays, we don't tend to pick up a book instead of watching maybe a movie on TV or so.
True.
Because again, it is easier to watch something than it is easier to read something. Always try the harder thing first. Reading has, some people may not see it, but has precise, exact words describing a situation or thing, whereas a TV or a media screen, you would see it and you would say it's going straight forward and you can see exactly what's going on. In books, that's not the case. You have to let your mind do the work,
Right.
and I feel like this is such a creative way, maybe for people who don't read or don't find inspiration in it. Find things that you like first. I was never into reading first.
So, you know, as we know that it's Children Day today,
Yeah.
so I really want to ask this question from both of you that, mashallah, you have this clarity, and as Hajra has said, that, you know, we can see the fineness in your persona. So what is the message that you want to give to the children on this particular day?
Amna, you go ahead.
Well, to the children, I would like to say that if you don't actually remind your parents, they're not going to know that it's Children's Day. For us as sisters, it was a huge endeavor for us. Every November 20th, we would actually go to our parents and remind them that, oh, it's Children's Day. So take a step ahead, and also you are kids, and kids can only understand kids better. So look, I think school plays a huge part in that, school assemblies. So whatever you're actually made aware of by your teachers and your fellows, you should actually raise your own voice, maybe create a little message for other kids around the world, and that will make the day more special.
Right, thank you so much. Like Amna has reiterated, we observe this day in order to celebrate the togetherness and the awareness among the children about their rights, and they have lots of rights enshrined in the United Nations Children Convention, especially their right to play, the right to education, right to protect them from the childhood abuse and the violence, and the right to have their voices, because as a children we sometimes feel that they are children, they are not mature, so their voice is suppressed. But nowadays I think because of the awareness, we need to take them more seriously and give the voices to those voices, young voices out there. So with that, we are closing up this, wrapping up this segment. We are going on a short break, and after we come back, it's a very interesting segment lined up. And once again, we would say thank you to both of these girls for coming here. Thank you so much, Aisha and Amna, and we are wishing you best of luck for your future endeavors. So don't go anywhere. Good morning. Welcome back, and that was a quite fascinating conversations with two young buds that were in the studio. But now we are going to talk about a topic which is very close to our hearts, because we always explore spirituality from the perspective of the Islam, from the perspective of morality, and how it affects our moral society. So we are going to have this conversation and develop further on this conversation. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce our guest. We are very glad that we have been joined by Professor Tariq Ijaz Saab, who happens to be a religious scholar and an educationist. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show. And joining Professor Saab, we are very glad that we also happen to have with us Anat Khan, who is Qari Inamullah Awan. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. So Qari Saab, क्या सुनाएंगे आज आप?
नाते रसूल में पढ़ के हुदूदे ताईरे सिदरा हुजूर जानते हैं कहाँ है अर्शे मुअल्ला हुजूर जानते हैं हुदूदे ताईरे सिदरा हुजूर जानते हैं बरोज़े हश्र शफात करेंगे चुन चुन कर बरोज़े हाश्र शफात करेंगे चुन चुन कर हर एक गुलाम का चेहरा हुजूर जानते हैं हुदूद ताईरे सिदरा हुजूर जानते हैं मैं इस यकीन से निकला हूँ जानबे तैबा मैं इस यकीन से निकला हूँ जानबे तैबा मेरे सफर का इरादा हुजूर जानते हैं हुदूद ताईरे सिदरा हुजूर जानते हैं सिखाई बात ये सरवर हमें सहाबा ने सिखाई बात ये सरवर हमें सहाबा ने के जानता है खुदाया हुजूर जानते हैं हर एक गुलाम का चेहरा हुजूर जानते हैं
Jazakallah Qari Saab, beautiful indeed. Now we are going to come back to Professor Tariq Saab. Sir, as you happen to be a religious scholar and an educationist as well, so how significant do you think are the religious teachings in promoting a just and a good society?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. To create an ideal Islamic society which is based on higher standards of moral character, for such a society we need to understand the composition of human being.
True.
We as human beings, we are composed of two realities. One is the physical aspect of our life and the second one is the spiritual aspect of our life.
Beautiful.
As far as our spirit, our soul is concerned, human being in the form of spirit and soul, it has been living quite for an unimaginable long time period in the world of spirits, in the world of angels, in the world of divinity, in the world of command, where our souls, our spirits, what they have been enjoying over there in that very world. It is very important to know, because later when we are just going to connect our life and the importance of spirituality in order to bring or upgrade a moral standards in the society, so the role of spirit and spirituality, it becomes quite indispensable.
Right.
So in that very realm of spirituality where our spirits they have been living, so the environment of that world, it was based on divine invocation, it was based on divine glorification, it was based on extolling the holiness of God Almighty Allah. It was based, our spirit was enjoying the companionship of angels in the world of angels.
Right.
Our souls and spirits, they have been enjoying the companionship of the souls of the pious people and those of the prophets.
Absolutely, what a beautiful thing you have explained. But you know, here coming towards the society we are living in right now, I believe that there is a lot of anxiety, there is a lot of frustration. You know, we are going through a lot of challenges globally as well.
That's true.
So, in what ways do you think we can use the teachings of religion, the teachings of Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, to come out of these crises, to come out of these challenges, and how can we actually convince people?
Or do you feel that the anxiety or of all of these mental health crises is maybe somehow is a result of, you know, how we are treading far away from spirituality, and we are so much busy in the cacophony of this materialistic life. We are running after the material so much that we have somehow forgotten that the spirituality exists and our connection with the nature is important.
Yes, definitely anxiety, depression in modern world, you see it has become almost a common issue of our day-to-day life.
Exactly.
So how this depression, this anxiety, anger management issues, psychological issues, moral issues, how they can be settled through the path of spirituality. So let me connect it with that of that world where our spirits have been living. What was there? It was the environment which was free from any type of depression, free from any type of anxiety, free from any type of moral and ethical ailments like arrogance, like lying, like hypocrisy. Our souls, they were totally oblivious of all these humanly attributes which our souls, they have experienced while coming into this world. So earlier, the spiritual aspect of our life, it was totally in connection, or it was enjoying the beautiful neighborhood of angels, beautiful and excellent relationship with the angels, beautiful and excellent friendship with those environment, and beautiful and excellent lifestyle our spirits, they have been enjoying over there, free from all these types of depressions. How? Because they were exactly receiving the blessings from the divine names Asmaul Husna in that very world. This was the characteristics of our spirits, which were actually, you see, illuminating them, enlightening them, and finally when this soul, this spirit comes into our body, our spirits, they are just trying to reconnect the human being with those of the excellent values. Whereas the bodily requirements, they are dragging us towards those humanly desires which create sometimes these libidos, the lust for power, lust for money, lust for materialistic world. So here becomes a clash and conflict between two aspects of our life. So to making the nafs and ill-commanding self subservient to that of the spirit, it is the way that can ultimately reduce the depression, anxiety, and all these moral and ethical issues which we are facing day to day in our daily life.
Professor Saab, since you're also an educationist, and we've seen, especially nowadays with the climate change discourse, that how a lot of people are studying it with the element or the lens of spirituality. And a lot of people are studying it with the spirituality, the lens of Islamic lens, where we believe that this Mother Nature is imanat of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It's a bounty, it's a blessing of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and we need to protect the natural resources, you know, do not waste these natural resources. So do you feel that this climate change discourse becomes more pertinent, more relevant in our society when we read it or study it through the lens of Islamic spirituality?
Definitely, Madam, you have highlighted very important point. Lots of people in our country globally, they are definitely unaware about this danger which is almost coming. And in future, it will become the big threat for human existence. The drastic results of this phenomenon, climate change, that are happening in the world. Nowadays, our universities, they have started introducing such subjects on environmental studies, really creating the awareness about this aspect. Talking about Islamic perspective on the protection of environment in the society, it is very clear. Islam has taken a keen interest in developing an environment free from any type of pollution, free from any type of wastage, free from any type of, you see, while introducing the teachings of contentment, satisfaction, and living within the parameters defined by Islam and Islamic teachings. If we just follow these footsteps of Islam, like for example, one very simple example, when we are just going to make ablution, when we are taking bath, you see, wasting the water while consuming lot of water for just making ablution, this is something which is not approved by Islam and Islamic teachings. So so minor things they have been taking in our day-to-day religious and spiritual teachings. If we are just going to be, we are going to connect these teachings with those of the issues which we are facing right now, hopefully then we are just making concerted efforts from Islamic perspective, then we can also contribute in terms of reducing these risks which are coming ahead in our
Right,
life.
and one thing, I'm sorry I'm interjecting, but one thing that I would quickly like to ask here, and this is a topic that is very favorite of me, which is the racism that we all experience in our society. And in the Islamic society, the moral or any standard to gauge someone's piety is taqwa. It's not the race, it's not the creed, it's not the gender, it's not the caste. Do you feel that it's high time that we revert back to prophetic model, because it was a very just and balanced sort of a model that contemplated universal and global values which were not directed by the West, but which were directed in a very Islamic image?
Definitely, madam. The Islamic viewpoint living in the world is primarily based on the respect of humanity, on the pattern that one is almost working as a trustee in this world. This is Islamic mechanism for the Muslim's life. So here, keeping these concepts in mind, a person who is closely participating and practicing Islam will never go to such types of ailments of the society which create hatred, which create racist attitude in the society, or which creates any type of ethnic, religious or other types of discrimination in the society, because all the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this prestige, this respect. Everybody living in the world are human being. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. This dignity, respect and honor, being a human, it is the first and primary duty of a Muslim to pay respect to everybody, regardless of what color he is having, which creed he is following, which religion he belongs to, which territorial area he belongs to. All these are the secondary affiliations, but the primary thing in the human connection is that you see, one belongs to human race.
Right, of course, beautifully explained, and humanity and equality is definitely the pivot of our religion. But one last question that I really want to ask, that there are people, unfortunately, who definitely hajra, they are they offer namaz, they offer all their religious duties, but they don't practice humanity. So how do you see this? Isn't it a hypocrisy?
Yes, definitely, especially in our society, when we talk about, you see the people, we divide them into two types. One, those who are strictly following the rituals of Islam.
Right.
But at the same time, they are totally blind the spiritual aspect of all those rituals, which are penetrated into that. And then the second reason, we need to propagate the spirit of humanity, the love, compassion, mercy, and wherever there is a conflict or disagreement, there are beautiful teachings of Islam how to peacefully settle these disagreements while keeping the respect and regards in minds about the human beings. We can also resolve number of conflicts and all these types of differences while keeping respect intact in our minds. This is what we need to propagate through different channels, through religious educations, all those madaris, wherever religious teachings they are being propagated, they are taught the students. So such subjects, they are needed to be introduced in the curriculum, which can ultimately promote these values. We can finally give respect to those of humanity.
Thank you so much. We will thank both of our gentlemen for coming here and contributing to our show. And we're really short on time, so we will quickly wrap up this segment and bid you farewell. Until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.